Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. And at this time, everybody's in attendance, so there's no regrets for tonight's meeting. And now we are going to pause to seek guidance. I'm now going to read the mission statement, which is to provide, promote, or facilitate municipal services that meet the community needs while preserving, supporting, and enhancing quality of life for all. The next is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next is the delegations presentation. So we have Gwen Wilson and Judy Green to speak to us about climate crisis. So can I have a motion for them, for Gwen Wilson and Judy Green to come forward? So a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Take the field.
Good evening, Warden McAlpine and members of the Municipal Council. Thank you very much for giving us time in your agenda this evening. My name is Gwen Wilson. I'm a resident of Digby Neck in the community of Sandy Cove. And
I'm Judy Green, and I have my business is here in Digby, but I live in Clemensport.
And we are here as two concerned citizens to speak to Council about climate change and the possibility of declaring a climate emergency. First of all, we'd like to commend the municipality for its very detailed municipal climate change action plan that you had to do as of 2013. So we've read through that, and we've looked at declarations of climate emergency put out by other nations, other countries, other cities, other provinces, and we feel that it's a timely item to be considered. In looking at the Municipal Climate Change Action Plan that you developed in 2013 with the committee, we tried to see if there had been any updating of that plan and requested to know if any updates had occurred, and we couldn't seem to find out whether any updates had been done. Nothing was published that we could develop. So part of our purpose in coming forward today as two concerned citizens was to come up with a proposal that we thought, well, perhaps you could use our proposal as something to build on in updating this plan. In response to a lot of recent information that has come forward from the IPCC, the time frame that I believe that we were operating under in 2013 or 10 years ago was a much longer time frame that we had to work with in terms of how we were going to respond to climate change. And current information tells us that we really only have a period of 10 to 12 years. And we recognize that the climate change panel, when they develop their reports, have to take many things into consideration: how it's going to be received by the public, how it's going to be received by politicians, and as such, sometimes the timelines that they give are even more generous than reality would allow. So we hope that you will receive our proposal and perhaps consider it as building blocks to move forward. So to that end, we will present it. So, whereas the municipality of the District of Digby promotes itself as being the greenest municipality in Nova Scotia, and whereas it is well established that climate change is causing significant disruptions to the world's climate systems, increasing the frequency of extreme weather events, and posing other significant risks such as drought, forest fires, and rising sea levels, and that these disruptions in our climate pose immediate threats to our natural environment, our health, our jobs, our economy, our infrastructure, and whereas climate impacts are already causing devastation, loss of life, and destruction of vital ecosystems, And whereas global average temperature, atmospheric greenhouse gases, and ocean acidity are already at dangerous levels. And whereas local governments are essential to the successful implementation of the urgent measures required to limit the global climate crisis. And whereas local governments around the world are taking new actions to avoid the worst impacts of climate breakdown and are calling on senior levels of government for a more urgent emergency response. And whereas 290 Canadian cities, towns, and municipalities have recently and formally declared a climate emergency in their respective communities in light of the dire warnings emanating from the Paris Agreement, the United Nations, and various global conferences and other recent reports. And whereas the municipality of the District of Digby has taken action on reducing energy consumption and the corresponding greenhouse gas emissions for district and town assets, thus establishing a starting point for mitigating the expected effects of climate change, recognizing the moral and scientific urgency of climate disruption. Therefore, be it resolved
that the municipality of the District of Digby, as a green municipality, should take a leadership role by declaring a climate emergency, and that Council recognize that the breakdown of a stable climate and sea levels under which human civilization developed constitutes an emergency for the municipality of the District of Digby. That the Council should direct staff to, 1, immediately establish a committee consisting of Council members, community residents, and stakeholders in fishery, forestry, agriculture, representatives from small craft harbors, transportation and infrastructure renewal, lands and forests, to review and update the existing climate change plan from 2013. We would like to see a schedule of monthly meetings of the above committees, which are open to the public. Publish all minutes of committee meetings in a timely manner. Provide an updated version of the current plan by December 31st, 2019, including progress reports on all items of action, specifically items noted in Section 4, the priorities for adaptation, for short term, 0 to 5 years, and pages 27 to 28. Adjust timelines in Section 4, page 27-8, to reflect the 11 years remaining to the necessary adaptations as noted by scientific reports. Publish progress reports on the municipal website and in print and social media platforms monthly. Amend the plan as necessary to reflect current knowledge relating to changes in projections, such as the projected sea level rise, ocean acidification, etc., and support the development of green infrastructure beyond municipally owned property and infrastructure. Provide increased incentive for property owners to install solar panels, small-scale windmills, thermal energy, or other energy systems not relying on fossil fuels or natural gas. 10. Support, promote, and provide incentives for community-driven and based green energy projects. I gave a talk in the community about climate change. We gave that talk in Bear River to a full house Sunday. I'll be speaking on it again in Yarmouth on Wednesday, and I would invite any of you to come, but I would also like to offer the opportunity to have that talk presented to you as a group on your own, if that is something that you would be open to. And in that talk, we do talk about the consensus that the scientific community has reached and some of the problems that we're facing. The thing I find when I give that talk is Greta Thunberg says, everybody wants to hear about hope, but when your house is on fire, we want you to panic. And unfortunately, we do need to do a little bit of panic in order to get us to take the actions that we need to take in the timely manner that we have. It's kind of like planning out, your retirement plan and then realizing that you have to retire next week. You're going to scramble a little, and so we're going to have to do a little bit of that. But some of the information coming back from the community members is vital. And I think that's the reason for including community members in this panel, because you're going to get that feedback from them. Some of the things that we're hearing about is that people want to make sure that they have fresh water. We've had the wells run dry here just in recent summer. We see that happening again. The scientists are telling us here in Nova Scotia that we're going to have wetter springs, wetter falls, and much drier summers. So the threat of drought is going to be considerable. Our farmers need to be looking at different types of plants that are going to be more drought tolerant. So we need to be supporting them and having that information available for them and having that dialogue with them. We need to be looking at helping residents be able to conserve water, maybe a rain barrel collection initiative that could be subsidized or helped by the municipality. Even helping people about cisterns. And I've heard also that there is some building rules in some areas that are restricting the use of composting toilets, restricting the use of cisterns and other issues that can really help mitigate some of the problems that we're going to be seeing, whether or not we stop digging things out of the ground and burning them, which is what essentially we need to do. But on the local level, we need to be looking at what we can do to help our citizens to adapt and land softly into what this new future post-carbon is going to look like for us. And I've already seen that you're forward-thinking leaders, and I would just like to be able to build upon that with you, and would love to open support in conversation with that.
Questions? Deputy Warden?
I could ask a dumb one.
No dumb question.
Yeah, there is. The bathroom you were just talking about.
Yes.
What is it?
A composting toilet is actually, it doesn't use water to flush. It uses the bacterial action of enzymes and other additions to be able to process the waste in such a way that it doesn't have to be flushed away into a septic system with water.
You end up with a dry,
Yeah.
basically a dry, crumbly product.
So, is this for indoor use, or is it like for outhouses?
It's for indoor use.
Indoor, I've never heard of it, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you could just Google it.
I will, but I just wanted to make sure I heard
and-
this right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the newer ones, there is no odor. I know I have many friends that have, I have a cousin who lived in New York for a year, so she had a sawdust toilet. There was a little bit of odor with that one. I would recommend that one, but the new composting toilets are very, very energy efficient and water efficient. So there are technologies out there that people are wanting to adopt, and unfortunately there is rules in place that are making it more difficult for them to help themselves adapt to the future that we're looking at. Excellent question. Let's do different questions.
Any other questions?
So they have bylaw or regulations against?
Yes. Yes, I haven't looked into it to know exactly which areas have, but what people told me on Sunday was that there are building restrictions in the building code that won't allow occupancy permits unless you have certain structures in your home, one of which they do not allow composting toilets. If you look at Peggy's Cove in the visitor center there, that's all a composting toilet system now. You know, when we're looking at areas that don't have places for septic tanks and don't have the water available, it's a very well-known, well-researched technology that could be used even for public facilities.
What's the cost compared to?
I don't have that information for you, but we could look that up.
Well, you can purchase a composting toilet. There's various models, and like anything, there's a price range, but you can purchase a composting toilet for between $1,000 to $3,000. Some of them require electricity, some of them don't require any electricity at all.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, the little homes movement, you're not allowed to have a house without electricity, things
That's
like
right.
that, so there is a bunch of, but
Absolutely.
Digby County, we're not big on rules, so I don't think we have any rules.
What are you talking about, David?
Necessary.
Anyway.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure everybody stays safe, but there needs to be some flexibility
Yeah.
there. And that was one of the ones that had come up, David, as well, was the small homes movement, because it doesn't take much to heat a small home. And I'm sure you all know what heating costs are, and most people have the older homes that haven't been insulated. So we're looking at ways that we can help people to be able to retrofit. And Nova Scotia already has some really good programs to to help those, especially those low income, to be able to retrofit their homes. So we can just build on some of those ideas and bring it forward. But what we're really asking for today is really that declaration of a climate emergency. And the reason for that is that it shows that you recognize that this is a crisis and that you are prepared to take action and work on it. And we're not asking for money outlay at this point in time. We're asking to educate yourselves in conjunction with the public, and then together determine what steps need to happen in this community.
Deputy Warden?
I just wanted to make a statement or a remark. Well, excellent, I like what you said here. But I will tell you, all our meetings are open to the public.
Yep.
And all our minutes are available to the public. So I have no problem to put it in there, but I just wanted to make sure you did know.
Yes.
There's, the only thing that's not public is if we have to go in camera for contractual personnel.
Absolutely.
There's another one. Anyway, but otherwise, yeah, everything's carte blanche or open.
So any individual committee meetings are also open to the public?
Everything's open to the public.
So are we in error in not finding the minute meetings of the committee on climate change? We were not able to find that.
We don't have a committee on climate change.
Okay.
We have a renewable energy climate change coordinator on
That
staff.
would be right, Terry Thibodeau.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But if you went into our council minutes, then that would take it, because it's all in, but we have a strategic plan that we keep updating, and Linda keeps us abreast, and what we do to make it, so to find a committee, no, you're not gonna, but I'm just.
Right.
Thank you for that.
And you have a
That's
position.
good information. Right, so I guess in the context of what we put here, if there are items on the regular council meetings that are specifically pertaining to climate, perhaps it would be helpful in terms of getting information out to the community and providing a good source of education for the community, if those particular items were somehow reported on or published separately. So that they weren't, so that they're not buried in the council
Yeah, it was like
minutes.
136 pages.
Well, we're going to take your considerations. We don't make decisions on the night of
Understood, of course.
presentation, but we'll take this into consideration and let you know.
Well, we really appreciate that, and as Linda was offering us access to the tea and coffee, and I noticed the color of your mugs, it goes right along with Digby's being a green municipality, and so we're hopeful that you will act on our
Is anyone in Nova
proposal.
Scotia declared a green emergency? Because I know a few municipalities in the country have, and
Halifax.
some places outside of the country as well, in the States and in England.
Halifax.
But Halifax, okay.
Okay.
So it would be really, it would look like Digby did, because you are taking action, and you are a green municipality, so it would fit in.
Okay, Gail?
One thing I wanted to just let you know, council as well, with regard to the municipal climate change adaptation plan. That was done in conjunction with, I think, 2 other municipalities.
Right.
And we've recently just been successful in applying for, through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, we received through the Green Fund a 2-year staff grant. So we're in the process of developing a job description for that position that's going to be shared by the 3 municipalities. And one of the many tasks is to update and the MCAP, as well as building some community engagement.
One other thing that I had forgotten to mention that has come forward at a number of times as well, and you do mention it in your MCAT, is about Highway 217 at the seawall. That's an area that has been targeted, showing that we're going to see problems there sooner than we will in some other areas. So what we'd kind of like to see is perhaps some targeted strategies for dealing with areas at risk.
We've already had some discussions on that, and we're actually in the process of getting tidal gauges for Lake Siskiyou River and Bear River, because the village of Weymouth and Bear River are both at high risk. With the,
Part of our
part of our research to do this, we did make contact with, the names of things keep changing, but in my day, the Department of Highway, Transportation and Infrastructure renewal, because it had been suggested that department had a plan in place already for 217, but my correspondent informed me that they did not. So,
The province doesn't do any planning for sea rise. Is what they said to me.
and I know, having spoken at length with our local Small Craft Harbors Authority, the Digby-Neck Harbor Authority, that there's large sums of money being spent there on the replacement and refurbishment of wharves. And I asked Noel Facey, who's the chairman of the Digby-Neck Harbor Authority, if the ocean sea level rise was being taken into consideration in the planning of those new structures. And he suggested that it was, but I'm not able to confirm that that's the case. It will be up to the engineers designing the project. So one hopes that it will be.
When you give your talks, do you hand out any paper, like, for example, the provincial home warming program? Some of the, not the home warming, the stuff with the, yeah, they'll replace your windows and things like that. I got like 20 different people on the island and stuff like that. Maybe when you give your speech, have a stack of them right there with you, because that's something that's right off the bat, you'll have something that you can offer people that can help. Get people on the train, because it's free.
That's right.
And you pay for it via your power bill, so there's no, you're not asking for anything you're not entitled to.
Thank you very much for that, David.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for April the 23rd. A motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is unfinished business of minutes of April the 23rd. The RCL branch number 22 from Bear River, the funding request. And
Still haven't heard anything back from them. They were going to put in a grant application, and actually I reached out to them today via email, to see what the status is, so we haven't received anything yet.
the next one is Marilyn Keddy's representing the Campaign to Protect Offshore Nova Scotia presentation.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion on that. Where is it?
I want to get it here first.
Have them try to, that's in the kitchen. Am I right in that they had suggested,
There's a resolution there, but
Yeah.
Page 10 of the package.
I'll have them try to find it, sorry. Page 10. Then actually, here we go.
that's only part of it.
I got it. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion now. Healthy marine environment is critical to industries like fishing and tourism. They are the primary lifeblood of Nova Scotia coastal communities. It is our responsibility to protect and nurture economies. Not that one.
Unless that's one you want to make, you don't need to read the whole thing, if that's what you're,
Yeah.
including your motion, that council,
Yes.
let's put it on the floor for discussion.
Yes. I move that we accept that.
Have a seconder?
Seconded.
Any questions?
Thought the province was already doing something like this, wasn't it? I was just asking.
I'm not sure. Personally, I like the first part of it, and having a public inquiry. We hereby call for full independent public inquiry. Go down, yes. See that first part? To ask for that to be put in place, an independent public inquiry, I think is very doable. I think it's a very sound ask. But to ask for a moratorium on all future oil and gas exploration pending the completion of that inquiry I don't think you're gonna get anywhere with that,
Yeah.
personally. I mean, like, not to say that it shouldn't be considered, but the fact is, I think the first part is something that you could probably have some weight to it and get some support.
I just don't have enough information myself to make that kind of decision. I mean, they do coincide in other places in North America and around the world, so I mean, for us to make such a statement, I don't have enough information
What
to make.
coincides
I-
around the world, what do you mean?
But I do, like you, Jim, I do believe like more talk with communities and stuff is a start.
No, but the resolution that he had up there is what we were just talking about. Deputy Warden?
See, I disagree. I think you ask for the moratorium, the same as it's on other things in this province that need to be kept. Once it's the completion of the inquiry is done, then they open it, or they don't open it. To me, that should be no more than 2 years. And that's not asking a lot for stopping oil that can destroy our fishing industry, destroy us as a province as well. So for me, I'm in complete agreement.
I am as well, especially considering the tools for putting in a breached wellhead in Norway. It was in France, I can't remember, it was Norway. Yeah, and it's also on the absolute edge of what technology can do. We've already had numerous accidents and mistakes and multi-time collapses of pipes and what was it, drilling mud they call it once? It's a bad idea, and sure, at the most it'll bring $2 billion over 20 years into the economy. Well, $2 billion is what we get out of the economy every year from fisheries. Now, after what happened in the Gulf of Maine, what was that, almost 15, 20 years ago, the shrimp are still having it. So it'd be crazy. I think it's an awful big risk for an awfully small reward, and yeah, they don't know what they're doing out there. They've made it clear, and I say moratorium at all.
But I thought the federal government was looking into this. They're segregating some parts of the oceans now. I don't.
Playing the game.
Councilor Manson?
I'm for like Dave and Amy, I would think the moratorium first, and then the inquiry investigation. If you don't have it, they just drag it on, it could be 5, 6 years before.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you get the moratorium kind of pushing them, hey, let's get this thing done so we can.
Okay.
Let's have rules before we let them go free out there. It seems pretty basic stuff. And the government's shown that it's willing to bend over backwards just by the location of the machinery for a long while. There's no mitigation risk at all. It's an all or nothing approach, it seems to me.
Okay. Any other comments? So there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Right on.
The next is the CAO report. You got your meeting dates and reminders. Is there any issues with any of those dates?
As I said, I will not be here on the 15th, so
Yeah.
I was at the last meeting.
Or myself.
Okay.
You know, me and meetings, I love them. Can't come out. Good for all of them, and all
Okay, is there, got action items from previous meetings?
I'd like to talk to that for just like a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the action items. There's a couple things I'm not. There's something I'd like to see added and something taken away. I almost understand why we have aquaculture industry on the list, and I'd like to see that removed. And the thing I'd like to see added to it is what all the businesses around me are complaining about, lack of workers. And the aquaculture industry, like I said, you look around and you can see the results of the lobster industry. You see nice houses, you see people with a nice vehicle that can send their kids to university. You don't see any of that with the guys working for $13 an hour on a salmon cage. In the amount of money that's coming in, it's vast amounts of money, it's close to what's coming in for lobster, but there's no benefit, real economic benefit for anyone around here, not to mention.
Well, as far as our priorities, we're gonna have another meeting to discuss those, so we're not gonna do that tonight. And, you made your point on what you don't like, and we'll have a further discussion on that at a future meeting. Okay. Anything else?
I'm just, under environmental development services for the internet, that was 500,000, not 50, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's 50 for right now, is it?
what I've done is instead of putting, like, we've been pushing at 500,000, because we don't know exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
So, but there was some discussion that there may be, some type of funding for short-term projects.
Mhm.
So it's still in total 500,000, but
Okay.
I've done 50 for, and this is something that's coming to council. You know, we haven't had a chance to review our capital plan
Okay.
yet, but the 50 is correct.
Okay.
Okay, I thought the same thing we did.
In case, and then the other money is to flow based on the timing of any kind of project funding.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't see anything in this fiscal happening, beyond that short
No,
term.
updating.
Whatever the criteria they set up for the short term project.
Yeah.
What about the library?
Yeah, that came in today, so that was, I'd already done the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on that? If not, we're gonna go to the financial report, and I'd like to have a motion to approve the payables of April 2019 of $746,744.07. Have a motion to
I
approve.
so move the approval of April payables in the amount of $746,744.07.
Have a seconder?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, there's no income and payables expense report for April, so we're gonna move on to the strategic priorities items, and the first one's update on the strategic priorities work plan, which is what we just got done talking about, that we're gonna have a more in-depth discussion on this at a future meeting. Standing committee items, bylaw and policy, recommendation for approval of bagpipe honorarium. Can I have a motion?
I so move that the honorarium.
Second, that was a good deal.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is the recommendation for approval for Bay Ferries Visitor Information Services, MOU.
I so move that we accept the MOU with, paid services,
Bay Ferries.
paid services.
Visitor Information Service. This is a partnership between ourselves, the town, and Bay Ferries, and having a person on the ferry. Yeah.
That's
We
second
had
it.
this last year, it worked really well.
Have a seconder.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. The next is recommendation for approval of the installation of flat walls at the Weymouth Waterfront Library, not to exceed $1,000.
I'll move the approval of the installation of sidewalls at Wing Library.
Seconder.
Second it.
I was gonna put the amount of no more than 1,000.
Yeah, I said that.
No,
Okay. In your motion?
Yep.
Okay.
Not to exceed that.
Not to exceed 1,000.
And this is something that came at the request of working with one of the local crafting groups.
Yeah, the rug.
It's going to be used to display some of the artwork in the Weymouth Library.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. The next, we're gonna go to the committee of the whole business items. The first is the Riverside Baptist Church, the municipal heritage registration.
I so move that Riverside Baptist Church, be accepted as a municipal
I do have a seconder.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next is regarding the Weymouth Trading Post and the deregistration, and because of the fire and the building being demolished.
So move that we deregister Weymouth Trading Post on municipal heritage registration.
Seconded.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. And the next business item is the Freeport Village Commission funding request. And this just came in, and it's regarding, they're looking to purchase 6 of the Easy Shorter Community 3-stream recycling containers.
I'll make a motion to buy one for $451.
It's a similar request that we received from Golden Westport,
Yep.
and it includes just $500.
Well, I thought we bought one too. It was
No,
around-
we didn't, we just said.
$500.
Okay, I move $500.
I'll second
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. We're gonna now go to, excuse me, the correspondence, which was a 12-month notice letter from the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities that they received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And it was just to keep as a heads up of what could be coming our way in the next 12 months.
Did you tell Greg Graham this, Linda Gregory?
Did I tell him?
Did you send this information, do you know if Linda Graham knows that information to Billy?
Yeah, but not, when I got my notice from before, I called them up, and
Yeah, I talked to her
it was
too.
at a meeting I was at,
Okay.
that they are gonna regulate, yes, so
Yeah.
she does know.
Okay, I passed on just what I heard from the meeting.
So there's a meeting in Yarmouth, sometime in June.
There is?
I'll have to tell Linda.
Oh, I thought there was something about,
Graham. Somebody Linda.
Rod Grand, about,
Airbnbs.
yeah. June 4th, 3/5.
Is that open to everybody?
I don't know,
MVs, that's all this is. Or
I think that came out through NSFM.
That's
Yes.
Alright. I'll, pass that on. Or are you gonna give her a call? She's in your district.
I'll call, but if that's NSFM, I can't.
That's not, that's just,
Meeting would be open to the
no, it's for
public,
the council.
So we can hear what's going on. But I will tell her that we received more. Let her know.
The one large one that's come up on this here list that I'm kind of interested to see more information on is equalization and what the impact could be on us. And it says they changed the name of the fund, the Municipal Fiscal Capacity Grant, and but they're not giving any information. They're just saying they're going to do a review of the grant.
Yeah.
There's only one reason to review, and that's to pay us less money.
Well, normally, well, you know, in fairness, there's a pot of money, there's a certain amount of money for that, for the whole province. And as demographics change and as needs change across the province, they have to adjust it, so. But I don't know if that's going to be positive or negative for us down the road. But anyway, that's one of the ones I have a concern about, is what the impact could be on the municipality.
So the Department of Environment one for these, the coastal levy.
Yeah, proposed Coastal Protection Act.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as a negative. The only thing I
No.
see there is just having the information so our building department will know what the regulations are going to be.
Yeah. Playing things too close to the edge.
The other thing too, and it's under the Department of Justice, is the Additional Officer Program. And they've reviewed that. They haven't released the information on what their decisions are going to be or what they're even thinking about doing. But my concern is that they want to take that program and they want to cluster it. And if they do that, well, they cluster that program, I would like to see one of the clusters in Digby, rather than taking away to build up there. So I've already said something to the Minister of Justice about this. I ran into him and mentioned it to him that I'd like to have a further discussion at a later date, but it is a concern that I have with that one.
This is the name of that program. How much she likes that program specifically, so I'm kind of hoping that they'll stick it or keep it around.
I see it in Bridgewater, I see it in Yarmouth, I see it in Halifax.
Oh, I know.
That's where I see it, and,
But that's because that's where they've done all their clustering for other programs.
right?
That doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
No, and the minister likes to make sure the Bridgewater's well taken care of.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments about that?
I was reading this one about the cannabis thing. Did we get any benefits from that thing that we rolled out last October? Is municipalities reaping?
Nothing, we were told that there has been nothing mandated by the feds to tell the province to give us money. It was costing them money. So how can we expect to get anything when it costs
Oh,
them?
sure.
Now, other provinces have given it, and at the
You gotta bring this up at the FCA.
At the NSFM,
Oh, right.
they, again, it was another question asked, and it was the same answer.
So some other provinces are giving.
Because they feel it was said it was to be shared, but, the minister does not agree with that statement, that it's to be shared with the municipality.
So those other
Or this province.
Those other provinces don't have those overhead expenses that we have?
No idea.
Political, it's all political.
But I shouldn't say, when I say that, it was the government.
Yeah.
Our liberal government does not feel at this time, and they said they doubted it. Because the NSFM is still asking, why aren't we getting some money?
I think what's gonna have to happen, a year or two is gonna have to go down before we're gonna be able to.
You're gonna want.
Well,
Evidence.
what we can't prove that our policing costs are gonna go up. We can't prove our building costs are going up for inspections on properties. We can't prove any of that stuff right now, but if we collect data over the next couple of years, if our costs have gone up, then we have something to go back to the province with. And that's where the NSFM will play a role. Because they can do studies on the impacts it's having on municipalities. And it's the biggest impact would be policing. So.
I think the first part of it should be spent on mental health. I think you should look in that area too for data, and that's where you're gonna find. Yeah.
So as far as the funding and everything, right now the provinces, I think their stand on it is the cost that they've incurred on trying to set up the stores is greater than what the revenue stream has been to date. Now, like I said, down the road that will change, and we don't have anything that we can say that our costs went up yet. We can't validate that. So.
Well, we do know that someone they busted grandma's edibles or whatever it was next to your place. So they're spending some effort on it.
Yep.
That's not good.
No, I'm talking about our policing. I mean, that's a policing cost for not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about impaired. I'm talking about training officers and equipment. Those costs. So we got to prove what those costs are. That, if there's been an increase. So, okay. Is there anything else on that? Okay, the next thing we're going to go to is advisory committee minutes. Is there any questions pertaining to the joint RCMP advisory meeting for the January minutes? The next one is the planning advisory committee for the June 2018 minutes. Any questions? I have a question, Deputy Warden. With regards to the wind turbine bylaw review, is that started, or have you started that process yet?
That's done.
Well, then, okay, good. I forgot about that one. I thought that, yeah, you're
No,
right.
now we're looking at, what's gonna happen from the province meeting,
That's that plan.
looking at an asset plan. As the province wants us to be looking at the whole.
You mean the municipal planning standards?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we've been looking at. We haven't really got too much direction yet, though. We're sort of in a wait and see position, I guess.
Okay.
It looks like it's gonna be like a 3-year.
And not as onerous as we originally feared.
And what about now, like with the coastal planning strategy that the province has come up with as well? Is that taken into consideration for zoning for land, like where you put a building on a property?
Not yet, but it will be.
I think you're right, not yet.
It will be.
My understanding is that the province is gonna create these zones, and with the regulations included in those zones. You understand what the province is gonna create those zones?
Yes, but it will be coming down to us.
Well, if someone comes in with a building permit, they'll have to determine whether or not that's in one of those zones. And then first the applicant has to provide, some sort of professional proof that there won't be an impact on the place. I'm not sure whether they have to be integrated. I don't think they're gonna have to be integrated into our own land planning. They're
Okay.
gonna be the provincial zones.
All right. Is the municipalities going to be able to have input into the development of that?
Assuming there'll be consultation, the regulations, I think, are still being developed.
I'm hoping there is. I have huge concerns about people building and destroying our coastline. I have no problem, but you gotta be far enough back so you don't impact it. You know, and people have no problem when they suddenly build, destroy that grass that was there.
That's when I was reading the package, I saw that, and there is going to be setbacks, but they don't determine what those setbacks are going to be. And that's why I was wondering whether or not.
Well, that's what we're waiting to hear from them so that we look at it then.
But that's what I mean, they're going to put it out for consultation. Okay. All right. Is there any other questions to the PAC minutes? Next is joint intermunicipal committees minutes and reports. Atlantic Mayor's Congress, October 2018 minutes.
It was interesting to read those minutes. I like them. It was interesting too to see the different cities and towns and what their priorities were. Very interesting.
There was a lot of concerns in the past.
Yeah.
See, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Digby Area Recreation Commission, you've got the minutes from March and April, the Recreation Director, the Facility Manager, and Active Living Coordinator, April and May reports. Are there any questions? None. The Digby Municipal Fire Association February minutes.
One thing is, we had 4 fire departments will send us back, the list of people. It's now been resent back and had their own forms that they were sent. They were given forms at the meeting. We emailed them forms. The forms have been re-emailed with a note sent to them that we have to have it on those forms so we can get the medals. And there is going to be quite a few. Just looking at what I'm seeing, there is going to be. So Pat has been sent a copy of just so she knows what's going on. But I've also let her know that in that email that you haven't received yet, because it's been sent, they sold, as I said, but we'd like to see it every year. They still think it might be yearly.
Yeah, we'll have to see how many people.
Yeah, but this first year, there's going to be a lot of firemen recognized, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's shocking. When I was just looking, I'll give you an example if I can find it right off the bat. Give me a second. If I wasn't looking quickly, it would be right in my face, you know that.
When you're talking, are you looking for the longest date?
Oh, no, the longest date is probably from the island.
69. Or 59.
But,
59 years
you know what
service.
I'll do? I'll go to the Smith item.
Yeah.
Pat, here's your service award. All right, for example, I'm just gonna grab this one. Is it open? From Clinton Fire Department, Clinton and Gilbert's Cove. We have one firefighter, 39 years and 5 months. We have another firefighter, 35 years and 5 months. Another firefighter, 32 years and 5 months. You know, and that's just from a very small, and I'm thinking, all those years they put in, you know, and it's the same when you start looking at Leaky Necks and that, and I just grabbed the first one that was
I
okay.
think most of them are gonna be like that.
Yeah, I'm so proud to have men and women that have been dedicated all those years to serve the community as firefighters, and whether in the end they have had to stop going into a fire, but they're still there to have the coffee and tea ready, they're still there to help people, they're still there to answer the phone, they're still there for the fundraisers. I can tell you, I lift my hat off. There's not a fireman I wouldn't lift my hat off to. And I think we need to be proud that we have 11 departments, you know, and that they're all wanting to help us. They're all wanting to be there.
Hundreds of years worth of volunteers.
Oh, no.
Yep. Okay. Once we get all the applications
And
back
I
in,
gave
then-
them a deadline.
Highlight you too.
I think they were 2 years over.
Oh, did you?
Once when I was on there.
Well, it's like this, sadly to say, that if they don't get the names into it, we're not gonna be able to recognize the firemen that have the long service in those departments, so.
And I really want it done. My concern, is we're one of the departments, unless they've already nominated a new chief, I don't know what's happening there. With the last meeting, they weren't there, of course, but, and I'm assuming they sent it on to the deputy, but I'm just a little concerned.
Pardon?
Well, I didn't want to use his name, but,
I think we,
you know, I'm just saying, because there's some changes happening there.
Yeah.
When's the date they gotta be in by, remember?
Yes, we said at the end of June. But
Well,
I gave them a deadline of June 14th.
Yeah, I write down that right now.
So June 14th is the deadline officially.
George, we received Weymouth.
Oh, yeah, Weymouth is done.
What about this one?
No.
All of the islands.
The only one
only
that
one
did it
that-
on the
That's
forms is Weymouth. Only one.
one.
The other 4 departments that are sent in, but they've got to redo them all, is Digby Neck, Freeport, Westport, and Gilbert's Cove.
Okay.
Yeah. Those they sent in, but they didn't do it,
Correctly?
well, they didn't put it on the form, so you can't just use,
Can you give me some of the forms that, I'm just.
they have them,
Okay.
they have them.
I'll drop by, I'll drop by and see the chiefs.
And they all know.
We're also.
All right,
14th deadline.
anything else on fire service?
Pardon me?
I just asked if there's anything else on fire service.
Our next meeting is not till fall, unless we have something come up. They're just want to make sure that there is insurance coverage done for all. They like the idea of the one phone being distributed, all be used by all. I think they're working well together.
That's good. I know the mutual aid program,
It's really
it
good.
does work well.
So did they find the grant check that we sent them?
Yes.
The next thing is King's Transit, February and March minutes. The March General Manager's report, financials and ridership reports, an implementation plan, and a report for service partners.
And I just attended 2 meetings. One, we did the budget of the Corps. Now they're going back to their municipalities and they're bringing our budget on the 10th of June. And we will go through it. There is a raise. I think it was 3-something%. But he wanted to go over it all down here, so it's a fine. The other was, they had the recommendations several information, plan that was sent out as well. There was a couple things that affected us, but the biggest thing is, making sure we work together and making sure things make sense. Their concern was if the bus is up there, being taken care of, and they put gas in it, it wasn't showing to put gas in it. I said, the other thing I wanted to make sure, everyone just looked at me, when our bus is up there and you use it, and you put gas in it, or fuel in it, that's yours, not mine. So, and the others are saying, what do you mean? I said, because sometimes you use our bus. They think we've done the best idea of using the older bus for our main bus, and they are definitely, the Corps is getting rid of their two buses as well as ours. You know, we know they're saving hours. And they were like, Jimmy, they're asking, where can we sell them? And I said, well, you know, we will put it out, but
So these
expect a lot.
No, we're not gonna get a lot for it, but I mean,
We'll sell it.
we'll sell it. But, question I have is, do they have it repaired?
Yes, it's all repaired,
Okay.
and it's sitting.
And I've had a discussion with the manager, and there will be no more major repairs. It was supposed to go in to have, some sort of social thing again, and that would have resulted in, some of the stuff was warranty, but then it would have resulted in us having to keep it, not again, so that's on hold, we're not doing anything more. Not just to keep it safe, we'll be doing that, but nothing of a major maintenance.
Oh, that's good.
But they will be doing some major maintenance on the Eldorado.
Well, that was our tank.
It is, but it also has 1.7
I know.
million kilometers on it.
It's probably 1.8 by now.
The things that are going to Guinness World Record.
Oh, I like it, like it's.
Yes.
There is no, report on there from Tide Gutierrez because last month we had our meeting a week before council, and this is usually the week or the Wednesday after council, so there hasn't been a meeting in there in the meantime, so I didn't get the answers to those questions yet about where the states came from, the flu and disease and stuff.
So you'll be able to report that at the next
Yeah,
meeting?
so we have a meeting this Wednesday and then.
Okay. All right.
So I haven't forgotten those things.
Okay. Nope. All right, thank you. Is there anything else in the King's Transit report before we move on?
Except that Glenn will be here on June the 10th to go over budget and to discuss the recommendations.
Okay. The next is the outside boards, committees, minutes, and reports. Digby Harbor Port Association, the AGM April 2018 minutes, February 2019 minutes, and the April manager's report. Are there any questions?
It's a good crew, and we're pushing all we can push. And thanks for mentioning that. At the Lake Acadian Mayor's.
The next is the Abercommons Park Society March minutes. Any questions? Anything else? Yeah.
They've hired a GM, and he's from just outside of Halifax. I missed the last meeting, I couldn't make it, but I'm gonna get to the next one. But they've got him hired, everything's a go, everything's set up, everything's going to do right now. So.
Did they get the provincial money they were looking for?
That I'd have to check. I haven't talked to David lately. I'm gonna give him a call.
All right. Okay. Next is Councillor's District Activity Reports, and I'm going to start with Councillor Tudor.
I've been super busy, kicking the Safe Communities Act into action again. I'll leave it at that. I had somebody who was unable to, had their power cut off and was unable to move, and me and 3 island churches who went on a 4-way split saved the day. It was really nice. I've been using some cultural consideration of your local culture is something that seems to be really popular with the social sciences lately. And I've been using it to push some of the local issues, and it seems to be working quite well. I had a meeting with the mental health big shots. It was 4 altogether, the head clinician, the person in charge of the social services. It was legitimate people in charge to the center of the province. And we had an hour and a half last meeting, and it went wonderfully. It could not possibly have gone better, I thought. They were eagerly discussing how to best deliver services so that the young people and older people could be able to access them with the considerations of local culture. It was very, very good and very positive. So happy with that. I also started to put together a little bit of work on a proper group to oversee title development. I think we're taking a couple of risks, and I don't want a lot of resources have been extracted in Southwest Nova where nothing into the community, and I don't want that to happen again. So I'm trying to, I think there's something to offer to the community and to the businesses. Maybe we should have a little time. So I'm working a little bit on that. I called Tiverton to mediate dispute. Two wonderful people who, it was very, two well-meaning, wonderful people, and it was very easy to figure out a solution. It all worked out well. A bunch of different island groups looking for, our grants and things like that, helping them out. The SME and SOAR are on the short list for the $3 million project for title, so that's looking really good. I was talking on the CBC and putting on a harbor push again because it's getting near federal election time, and there's $48 million for 181 wharves over 3 years, even though it's a pittance. It's nowhere near, it's not even enough to maintain what they got, let alone fix anything up. Years ago, you remember I tried to get the child care preschool going? That sort of lifted its head. I've had somebody get in contact with me, and I want to keep a finger on this preschool because we're hopefully getting a new school on the islands, and preschool would be something that would affect the formula for the square footage. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that. Doing a lot of school volunteerism. TIR was down on the islands. I gotta say the villages do a really good job letting TIR know what's going on. And I want to get a conversation going on cages down the islands now that there's talk of another expansion of the district. Everything's been going very well. People get along very good.
All right. Councilor Manzer.
Let's see, not a busy month really, but the Health Charitable Foundation at the Annapolis Basin Conference Center with the docs. It was good to get out that evening. Spent a couple of meetings with Wake Up Weymouth. They're still in the process of selecting some projects to do. There's always road issues in the spring. so much that the paper guys even refused to travel our road and the Lewiston Road. He said, that's it. I'm not going anymore until that's about it, I guess.
Pretty bad song.
Yeah, it's bad. Buses haven't refused to go with it.
It's coming.
Thank you. Councilor Ross.
I started to look at the calendar thinking I only went to one function, but I ended up at a lot, so it's been a crazy month. DALA presentation I went to for here at the DALA. The students graduating there presented an award. I spent 3 days at the NSFM in Truro with Linda Gregory. We went up and got our fill in, and we did, talk about those potholes when we were there. Pretty big conversation about that. We got the rest of the group going.
That's conversation.
What are we gonna do with those roads? Yeah, exactly, right? So, we went to breakfast at the Church of Barton. They always have one once a month, and everybody goes to it. It's always well attended. Also went to East Fishing Game meeting yesterday. Need more volunteers. That's the big thing. People get burnt out. People step down. Trying to find people to replace. That's always the key in the community, right? There's not a lot of volunteers, and clearly not. I signed up as a director. They needed a 17th person, and I was okay, I'll do it. So, got them over the hump for that. So, yeah, just taking a lot of phone calls and checking into things. Like you said, it's been a lot with the potholes and stuff, talking to TIR, talking to Gordon, and finally got Marshalltown, the big road, Marshalltown, Bloomfield Road. Now I'm working on Sisseton Crossroads. That's another kettle of fish, so hopefully we'll get to that soon. That's it.
Okay, Deputy Warden.
I did attend the Diekman Air Foundation Gala, and I enjoyed being there with Dr. Westby and Dr. Curtis. And I also had some opportunities just to have some in-depth chit-chatting with them, which was good. I thought it was a great learning experience sometimes when you're sitting and you're hearing socially what's going on instead of all these things. I also attended the accessibility information session at NSCC as well as with you, and that was very interesting in what's happening. I attended the Day of Mourning in Yarmouth, and I spoke. For me, the Day of Mourning is really important because of Westray and because of our fishermen, and because, you know, there's a lot there that sometimes people forget, and who you've even lost. Because you know what? Something was said to me, and I said, my gosh, my uncle drowned fishing. And it wasn't like, oh no, that's just life. No, that's not real life, but it is life. It's life in our area.
Did you get to see each other?
Oh yeah, but it was coming back and looking and thinking of what happened. And then after that, I managed to meet with a miner, because they have mining started back in Glace Bay, and we had a great discussion on what's happening, and American owns it, what's going on, the safety regulations. It was a great, just good conversation to hear, because my brother was a miner. So yeah, it was. It's always great to learn from. From there, I did go to the National Conference on Aging in Halifax, which I got the opportunity to hear about Digby-Net and the collective, because I had no idea they were going to be there. It was sort of funny. Here I am, and there's Gwen, and she did a great thing, but it was on community and aging and what's happening. I mean, you've got to remember, Nova Scotia, the aging is happening very quickly. And, you know, what we can do, what we can't do. It was very, very interesting. It was just a one-day deal. That night, I went to the Fire Association, and the next day, I went to Event Atlantic for dark. And there, I had the opportunity to see how we can, as well with Cindy, to look at what can be brought in, how can we bring it in, what can we do, what were the faults that happened when people brought in stuff. It wasn't just, oh, this is all wonderful and flowers. It was like, you know, because we didn't do this, this failed, and that type of thing. And we had opportunities to meet, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if this was my highlight. We got to go to the EMA Awards, EMC Awards, the music. East Coast Music Awards, EMA. East Coast, yeah, if you say it right, I'm okay. It was different. Excellent music, learning. It was an evening that they wanted us to go to, and we had red carpet treatment. But the last group that went on, the guy beside me knew what was going to happen, and he said to me, you can't leave, you got to stay. And I said, well, I'm tired. I mean, I drove all day. I'd like to. He said, no, you got to stay for this. So, and these people had won 2 awards. And I said, yeah, I'll listen. And their music was good. And the man standing there, and he suddenly rips off his clothes, and he's there in a sort of a Speedo that wrestlers would have. And he's dancing around, and he's very, I know, small on comparison. So you can just picture how big this guy was. I don't know what they did because it was being done live. I assume they went to a commercial. It was pretty, but the highlight was really learning and meeting and seeing what we can come up with, because we've got to bring in things to keep things turning around. Also, I attended the spring NSFM, as you've already heard, and we had a lot of fun. It was different listening in that. I then went on Monday the 13th, I went to the 211 telephone information session, and I will tell you, it was certainly interesting. And what you want to tell anyone, if they're looking for anything, call 211. Call 211.
I call it.
I do too, but as a counselor, I call to give information. But they're saying, and which made sense, get the person to help call. You can always help them, but get them to make the call. Get that information out there. It was excellent and well received. I did miss the beach sweep in Culloden because it was raining and King's Transit meeting had been changed, so I had to get up to King's Transit. I attended Dr. Ron's birthday, which Jimmy and I gave him his birthday card, a certificate, and a golf shirt and hat, which he put on immediately.
matching sneakers too.
Wow. And they ended up having to close early because the septic system went. But, you know, otherwise it went well. The only other thing I wanted to comment on, we had a waste check policy meeting, and I attended the Lions Guide Dog Walk yesterday. And again, they're still raising money for guide dogs. And this one is for a child. So they earn the 20-some thousand, and then they start with another guide dog. And you got to remember, it's not necessarily because I have sight problems. A guide dog can be for epilepsy. It can be. They were saying there that there's a child who's got a severe allergy, and that dog has been taught if he smells, the child is pushed out of the room, he's pushed right away. And he goes to school and everything with that child because he's such a severe allergy. So, it's just really nice to hear. That's it for me.
And for myself, I also attended the Health Foundation dinner, and I thought that was well attended. It looked like a full house. And Dr. Ron's birthday party, 70th birthday party, I think he really appreciated the fact that we attended, but also the prize that we gave him. He didn't waste no time putting the hat on at all. And I know he just liked the fact that we attended.
Yeah, and he didn't want to take his hat off. I said, take your hat off so the mayor can have his picture taken. Because he wanted to leave it on, and the mayor really didn't want him to leave it on. Being a simple act.
Yeah. I also attended a function in Bear River where they renamed the community gardens after Carol Dibble. Carol was a founding person. She worked there when it was a sewer treatment facility for Annapolis County, and it was a nice event, and it was very well deserved. They did that for her. Also, I attended a session up in Antigonish County, which I thought it was well worth going to. It was a long drive, but Paquidneck First Nations in Antigonish County, they have joined together through working together with economic development and just developing relationships with the municipality and First Nations. And those are the kind of things that I'd like to see us do more on here, as well with Bear River First Nations. And I felt that was a good session. The FCM actually has a program in place, and Antigonish County has taken part in that. And Brock Carlton was there from FCM to give an award to them for the work that they've done. And you could tell that they've come a long way. And their work, and there's a lot of respect there from both parties. So it was a good event, well attended. And Other than that, I've been busy with the Library Board Association and PBSC. So that's it. So, do you have any questions pertaining to anything we discussed tonight?
No, I just wanted to add, actually, do you want me to move that the event with the 211 that Linda spoke about, the Digby Area Community Health Board also presented their health plan for 2019 at that event. And I do encourage you to look at that. It really is governing how we're looking at preventing a lot of chronic conditions in our area in Western Nova Scotia. And I also wanted the opportunity to invite every single one of you to come to our launch of Fresh Food Box, which is we're combating food insecurity in the Digby area. Fresh Food Box will launch on the 15th of June at the Fire Hall from 10 o'clock until noon. You get to come and see what it's all about, see some of the boxes, see the community members that are involved in this, including up in Freeport. We have Digby Neck, Bear River, and we're working on someone in Weymouth, so as well as downtown Digby. So we're getting lots of traction with this initiative. So.
$6 for a small and 8? 10
for a family pack, 6 for two. We're doing a trial this year, so it's 20 weeks, but we'll do 9 market days. And Conway Workshop is working with us. They're going to be the packing location. So we've got a lot of community support, and we're trying to pull in many different players in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
You said it's Fire Hall.
And Digby. Yeah, there is a few of them, isn't there? 11. Yeah, 11. I just learned that. Yes, Digby Fire Hall. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, now, next thing is to go and have a 5-minute break before we go in camera.
All right, I get breath of fresh air. Yeah, the hot tea is too hot.